by thanking you, Zane and Donna, for taking the time to chat with us at the Christian Beat all about your latest project, Everything Good.
It is an honor to be here. We've been
Yeah.
looking so forward to this and have followed the Christian Beat for a long time. I actually worked in the past as a publicist in between touring and then taking a break from touring and then now back to touring. And I was communicating with the Christian Beat in that role too. So we just love you.
Yeah, we've both been in the music business a long time, so we've wore a lot of different hats
Hat.
on both sides of the desk, as they say.
Oh, I'm sure. So I just wanted to start with the title of the project, and I'm just curious why you felt that kind of encapsulated all of the tracks and all of the messages that is included in the project.
That is a great question. Well, I'll tell you from my heart, and I know that my husband shares the same sentiment, is that we've been around a little while in this world, and what we have seen is that through every circumstance and in every situation, there is a common denominator, and it is that God is good and that he has such beautiful plans for our lives. And so as we've written this entire project, that is the theme that has run through our hearts. And what we have found is that, people, even though as human beings, even though we go through all kinds of stuff, when we know the Lord, that is one thing that we know. And sometimes we need to be reminded and we need to feel the joy of that. And so our goal was, let's remind people to feel the joy of the goodness of God. And that kind of just ran through the whole record.
Now, that's the correct answer right there. What really happens often, because we both produced records for many years, is you list the titles and you look at the titles and you go like,
That too.
that one just seems to be better. It's going to look better.
That too. It's a happy title for a record. Come on.
But you did choose the song for a reason.
Yes.
And certainly the title cut, Everything Good. And there's another theme that runs through a lot of our music, even though we talk about a lot of deep messages, things that are hard in life, difficult. We, at the same time, though, we approach some of that with kind of a medium to upbeat tempo and to try to give it some life, because we just want people to actually, once they hear the song and they get the message, we just want it to leave them feeling good.
That's right.
So everything.
Feeling everything good.
Absolutely. And I'm curious how long this project was in the making for you, because I know you both wrote on all or a lot of it. So just curious how long this was to pull this all together.
It's a labor of love, and it takes a long time for us. I think the challenge when you've been in the Christian music industry as we have, and we both worked as record producers, you just never let things go. and so, I mean, you're just perfecting and writing. And in fact, we're sitting very near our studio computer here. And I could show you files of songs after songs that didn't make the project,
that were recorded and slated for it.
Yeah. So we're kind of the world's worst when it comes to really, landing the plane on a deadline. But so it's honestly, the songs go back even to like COVID year 2020 and 2021. Writing songs from that standpoint, like "In Your Hands" was written right during the summer of 2020, and we might talk about that later. But then we hit the point where we're like, okay, we need to get this done. And so our record label, StowTown Records, they set the deadline, and they said, this is the day that you have to have everything in. And so through January, February, March, I mean, we were really
that was the big time,
working hard.
The big months, but yes, several years, but really concentrated effort over the last 4 to 6 months, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So I know that there's obviously been a lot of back and forth then, songs that that were maybe not able to be on, but was there any of the tracks that are on this project that you never wavered, this will definitely be on regardless of what else we write or come up with?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it honestly is every song that's on the record. It
Okay.
just had to come down to that. But I will tell you, there are a few that are exceptionally special to our heart. And one of those, well, actually, there's an interesting story behind it. From the basement to the altar, we actually did waver on putting it on the record, but not because we didn't want it there, but because a similar title came out in our genre in recent years. And we had already written it and had already planned on putting it on the record, but we're torn about it. The beauty is we have good, artists have good relationships with each other. And so we chatted with the artist, and I know that the artist who shares a similar journey, our journey in the song called From the Basement to the Altar, our journey comes from being parents of kids who've walked through a hard time with addiction and now the beautiful gift of recovery and what it was like for us as parents. And then that artist has shared his journey as the person who's walked through it. And so in talking about that, we're like, can there ever be enough songs about this? And so we absolutely felt that we needed to include it in the record, and we have that artist's blessing. So that's good. And then I would say Who You Listen To, which is very special to me because I feel like, on social media, as we age, as life changes, we start hearing these voices that are lying to us. And then there is this beautiful voice of God that remains steady and true and unchanging, who says that we were born to be used of him to make a difference, and reminds us of all those things. And that's what that song is about. And then there's bunches of happy songs on this record, including Everything Good, that as soon as we wrote it, we were like, it's gotta be there because we need people to smile. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's
when you
awesome.
balance the record, you definitely look for making sure that all the messages that you want are on it. And with tempo, you're going to look at that as well. But I would say that another part of us, enable the way we produce our songs is nothing's really final until it's actually final. And there's no safe place with us.
We're like, yes, and then we're like, I don't know that, but is that the personality of a creative though? Are we? I feel like creatives are just walking balls of insecurity.
No,
So when someone says they're blessed by a song, you're, instead of going, I knew you would be, you're like, really? Yay!
I was gonna say, have you had, so the song's been out for a couple days at this point, almost a week, or the album's been out for about a week at this point. Have there been any of those stories coming back to you that are really standing out that, just continue to solidify your choices in releasing the songs that you have?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, there is this, and she's already alluded to it with the song From the Basement to the Altar.
Mhm.
And because of what she said, we had really not planned to put it on the record. And then as we have shared this music with some of our friends and family, and people are really hearing it all together, and that song, people just keep, texting me and emailing and saying, "Wow, that means so much to me." And so that's been really surprising to us to some degree, just because of the story that we have with our family and our children, and about addiction and recovery. Um, we just had no idea what God was going to do. And now we're both kind of just sitting in this place of like, wow, we really needed to do that song. And the other song that she mentioned, and there's even a couple others that just really penetrate the heart. And so honestly, we can say this today, and this has happened over the last few days, even seeing that solidified. Um, and that is that God is birthing something inside of us a level of ministry or a different aspect of it that we didn't really see coming. And like we, we thought, well, we'll sing songs and people will be blessed, and maybe that draws them closer to God, and we love all that. We'll always be about that. But now this specific getting into this story of ours, and then the song being able to kind of be the vehicle that opens that conversation up. It's just powerful, and it's new.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if you had any hopes or expectations for continuing some of those conversations or opening up some of those conversations in the music that you are releasing. Because to your point, you have some of the later songs, but you do have some songs that really have some deep and maybe hard things to open up and start talking about on the project.
Yes, yes, and absolutely. And so we started this journey many years ago. Our children are now adults, and their story is theirs to tell. The interesting thing is, a lot of times, what you realize when you're walking through the journey of addiction and recovery is you walk in the room. We have a group that we gather with in a basement on a Tuesday night. So for those who listen to the song, you will specifically hear in the lyric, you will hear every Tuesday in that old church basement. You'll hear that. And
the chairs are circled.
Yeah,
the coffee,
please make it.
and it's all
and
true.
It's all true. And we gathered with those people. And when we started gathering many years ago, for the first time, we walked in those rooms thinking we could go in there and find the answer to fix our kids. But what we realized is how much we needed fixing ourselves, and how much we needed to be reminded that God is in control, that we cannot change people, but God can, that we cannot take circumstances in our own hands that are His to hold. And they were His to hold. Our children were more loved by God than they were by us. And so what we learned every week in those rooms is to bring our kids to Him and watch what He could do. And we saw it firsthand. And what we have experienced as we've gone out and shared our story, and as we've gone out and shared our songs, is that there are so many people just like us who thought that they could figure out how to fix their kids, and realized that what they really needed to do was give their children to the Lord. And how many examples do we have of that in the Bible? Isn't it amazing? God is always so many. People say God's one step ahead of us. He's like billions of steps ahead. He already gave us the roadmap, right? And we just need to follow it. And so it has been an incredible thing for us to see God working and moving. And we're praying that as He opens more doors and expands more opportunity, that we will just stay in the lane that He has us in, and be used in that lane, because this life is a gift to use well for Him. And we don't always. And so it's so exciting to get out of the way and let Him keep us where we need to be so we can be used in that way.
Yeah. Well, and when you said get in His way, I mean, that there's a slogan that and I think everybody's familiar with this: let go and let God. But in our community group, a family group that we're part of, it's actually an official slogan: let go and let God.
Yes.
And one of the things that we really discovered, and listen, it took a long time because we made a lot of mistakes and we did a lot of things wrong. And a lot of that just comes from a place of trying and desperation and a pure heart of wanting things and circumstances to change, but realizing that ultimately we couldn't change it. We often say we didn't cause it, I can't control it, and we can't change it. But letting go, that is the most difficult part of that slogan: letting go and letting God. Letting God, that seems pretty natural to me, but the letting go is so challenging, especially when you have things that are raging out of control and you just want to try to fix it and control it and navigate it. And that's what we've learned the most, is truly letting go. It's a process.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, So there's obviously a lot of your heart in this stories. You're telling your story through these songs and you're putting those truths in there as well. And I'm curious how you think that just helps it land home with listeners that much more, because you're talking about your story, but you're obviously touching and they're able to see theirs in it as well. And so I'm just curious how you see that play out as you write and do that.
I love that. I love that, Jesse, because I've actually been talking about that. I mentor songwriters, and I actually was just talking about that with a songwriter yesterday who was working on a song, and there were some details in there that would only be something that would have happened to her. And we were just kind of chatting about, okay, now what if we say it this way? Then it could be still a painted picture, but one that everyone could put themselves into. Now, just so everyone knows, the songwriting process is quite an incredible thing, and I can give out advice all day long and then not take it myself. So it's amazing how we learn through that process. And so coming back to that thought, that is exactly what our goal and intention was, is to be very careful to allow that to be another person's story. And truly, yes, I feel like what has taught us to include others in the story is going out and hearing their stories too. And when they've walked up to the table and they've walked up and shared what they have walked through, then we have heard them in the rooms on Tuesday night. We hear other people's stories, and it becomes a part of us. There's one song on the record called Wait for It. And a wonderful co-writer friend of mine, Susie Smith, walked in the room. Actually, she also co-wrote From the Basement to the Altar with us. She walked in the room with me and Ray Hollis, another co-writer, and brought this idea. And I realized in the process of writing this song that it could be about a lot of waiting. It could be about waiting for a job change. It could be about waiting for a health thing to get better. It could be about a lot of things, but it also could be about waiting for our answers with things that we can't control, like a family member walking through addiction. And so when we wrote it very open-ended, but just so that anyone could put themselves into that story and feel that moment when you say, there's grace for it, wait for it, and that's the title of the song, is Wait for It.
Which we're all there. I mean, we all have to wait. I mean, it's just part of life. And so I think that captures, so many listeners. But I'm also mindful of this lyric that Donna wrote on a song. I ain't got two nickels to rub together, but I've got a roof up over my head. And that title's Everyday Battles. And you should tell just a little bit about where that comes from. But because what is an everyday battle? Well, it's something we face every day,
right? Every day. So we go walking every morning, and you can tell when your listeners go and listen to our album, they'll notice the theme of outdoor and sunrises and sunsets and trees swaying and fish jumping and front. Is exactly, because we're very outdoorsy people and we love to be out in nature that God has created. And so one day we were walking and we were talking about how it's so funny how you think you got something figured out and then there's another battle that comes up. And so my husband and I, we were walking and talking, and we were in the middle of a virtual songwriting retreat at the time. Yeah. So it was an online songwriting retreat, and we had a write later that day. And so I was like, I wonder if that's a song, like Everyday Battles. And we're walking, and the tempo, just so everybody knows, the tempo of that song is actually the tempo that we were walking at when we wrote the song, because literally we were walking and talking and the words were just kind of falling out. I'm like, I choose prayer over worry, faith over fear. When I give him the glory, my way keeps getting clearer. And I literally was like, my way keeps getting clearer, and walking. And so, you know, that was a moment, and we brought the idea, didn't have the song totally written. In fact, you never do that when you walk into a writing room, right? You walk in as an open book. And we brought it to our co-writer, and we wrote the song Everyday Battles. So I love that you recalled that, because it brings that memory back to me.
Well, master songwriter here with Donna for sure, but
Master of insecurity.
But listen, but the truth is that when we put this music out like this, we are and that is something we're truly intentional about, making sure that it impacts people with their life right where they are. And as Christian writers, now I've heard a lot of great songs I love that are very tied to biblical stories, and we use those. I mean, we definitely do. But I find it by and large, there's one thing that I love in teaching writing and myself is my neighborhood. I just want to make sure that it passes the neighborhood test. For example, if I write a song, I want to make sure that most everybody in my neighborhood could relate to it,
could understand
it,
so that maybe they can find their way to Jesus if they haven't.
That's exactly right. So that's the one test I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know we're getting close to time, so I'm going to close with one final question, but I'm curious if you said some of these songs have been around since, 2020 and different things, and some were more recent in writing them, but I'm curious if there's any of the songs that meaning for you has kind of shifted, transformed as you've lived with this song throughout the process of putting this project together.
Well, that's a great question. Do you have a thought that crosses your mind?
That is a great question of how it was shifted in my mind. I can tell you some that did, and they're the ones that's on the computer over there that make the project.
You know what one comes to my mind is we wrote with Joel Lindsay, great songwriter, wrote Orphans of God, in case you want to go look at some of the bazillion songs that Joel has written that are incredible. He also leads a lot of songwriting mentoring, and he's just amazing. So during the pandemic, we wrote a song called In Your Hands, like Zane mentioned, and that was really at the time about just, we can't fix this, God, this is scary, but we know that you've got the whole world in your hands. And in fact, that old song is the bridge of our new song, In Your Hands. It's a very worshipful, up-tempo song, but it has taken on new meaning for me recently, because I think back then I was listening to it from that standpoint of, we can't fix this. And now it's taken on the meaning to me that, God, I know that every step is ordered of you, and every season of our life is in your hands. And my meaning now is, and I want to leave it there. I want to take this whole record and leave it in your hands. I want to take our ministry and leave it in your hands. I want to take this new thing that's opening up with our sharing our story of addiction and recovery as a family member who walks side by side with our kids through this. I want to leave that in your hands. I want to leave we have grown children, and now we have grandchildren. I know it's hard to believe if I scratch my forehead and you don't see that huge wrinkle right there. And no, we do have grandchildren, and I'm sure you can tell. But we want to leave them in his hands. And so that song for me, it went from being this like pandemic anthem to like the everyday reminder of who's got us and who's got what we're embarking on with this new record. Everything Good.
So for me, I look at, first of all, you can see the instruments in the background. So when I listen to a song, and it matters not, I mean, what genre, I mean, when I listen to a song, I hear the drums, the bass, the guitars, the chord progression, the melody, and the music. I mean, I will analyze the lyric last.
Okay.
So I think what happens to me is I am so in on what's going on with all of the production that I don't hear these messages until sometime, like last week on Friday. It was on Spotify. So now I don't have to do all this fancy stuff to be able to listen to my songs in my vehicle. And so on Spotify, it's starting to play, and I'm listening. I'm going through it. And to be honest with you, it's those messages are brand new to me in many ways. Like every miracle and mystery and front porch sitting and just talking about the goodness of God. And that just blows me away, because I mean, God just keeps dropping in little lines and messages for me, because until now I was just so focused on making it and listening to it musically, that now the lyric is starting to really drop inside my heart, brand new.
And if you're a musician, you're going to totally relate to that. And you're going, yep.
That's
All I
right.
could think about was the guitar riff,
Yeah.
like and if the drum went at the right time.
Yeah.
But when you're in the writing room, it's like you're thinking about lyrics totally, but then you like walk away and you're like, you know.
There's also one other thing. Donna is a vocal producer. Okay, so she produces vocals unbelievably well. And when she has got me, I've got the headphones on and I'm trying to sing the song, I can just tell you, I'm just trying to get the part right for
He's
her.
great.
And
I made it. By the way, the one song he's singing lead on the album is the one song that everyone is reacting to, From the Basement to the Altar, which was not, remember, we weren't going to do it. But I said to my husband, we need this song on the record and we need you singing it. I am not singing it. You need to sing it. And you sound amazing.
Well, I have
beautiful.
the best
He's so
vocal
hard
producer.
On himself.
I have the best vocal producer in the world. So if she can make me sound that good, come
on. That's funny. Anyway, well, question. Just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I've really enjoyed getting to hear more of your heart and everything behind the music. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah. It's been incredible. And we just love y'all at Christian Beat. And thank you to all of those who log in and tune in. And we're just grateful.